before I forget. So yes, no need to be on camera. This is just going to be an informal conversation between me and my friend that happens to be just a phenomenal baddie, and it'll be a good conversation. So I'm going to just go ahead and kick us off. People will probably trickle in as the 30 minutes goes on, but I know it's going to be it's going to go quickly. So I want us to get started, and we have a lot to cover. So I will say hello and welcome to the Katalyst Meet the Mastermind series. So this is, I think, our 5th or 6th conversation. And it's basically where we have the opportunity to pull the curtain back behind everything we have going on as a business, and meet some of the beautiful women and beautiful spirits that are part of our consulting community. I've been doing this for some time now, and I get to talk with amazing women who are doing just incredible things, who are super brilliant and just caring and kind and loving and giving. And I said, why keep that all to myself? I want to make sure that I am sort of bringing and sharing that love and that energy and that brilliance with the world as best I can with my little silly platform. So this is a special one because we have someone who is a former member of Katalyst, but always part of the family and the crew regardless. Once you're part of the crew, Katalyst crew, you're kind of always part of the Katalyst crew. And so just by way of introduction, I'm Camila. I'm the founder and CEO of Katalyst. Part of my job is running an amazing mastermind community of nonprofit leaders who are transitioning from their executive roles and their roles in the nonprofit space into independent consulting. So we sort of provide that bridge, that soft landing space, that space for you to sort of incubate and figure out what you want this next phase of your journey to be. And so LaTresse was one of the very first people who said yes to this crazy idea when I had it back in January of last year. So almost a year and 10 months. And we've just stayed in touch. So I thought it'd be fun, actually, LaTresse, to start with our origin story, because I think it's kind of funny. Like ours was a LinkedIn love story, I think, where gosh, I don't even remember how many years ago it was, but I think I saw on LinkedIn that you were joining as an executive in a new role at an organization in environmental philanthropy. And I had just sort of had a tumultuous ending to my tenure at an environmental organization where I was a vice president there. And I think I reached out to you just kind of in solidarity. Like I was just like, I saw this announcement. I'm rooting for you. I'm cheering for you. Let me know if I can do anything. Like kind of like if like just so you know you have people to support you. But that was like the beginning, and the rest is history, right? Am I getting that right?
I remember that because I even remember having a position. There was a position open at that organization, and I was like, "Hey, are you interested?" And you were like, "Nope, not again."
Not today.
And look how things work out, because I was like, "Yeah, I need to cut the ropes too." So
yeah. And I think it was interesting because, like, I don't even remember, but like at the time when I was starting Katalyst, like you kind of resurfaced and you were like, hey, I want to experience kind of an experiment together with you. But I think that speaks a lot to a lot of, our experiences, Black women's, in leadership of organizations. You just get to a point where you're just like, I need a break. Like I can't anymore. Enough's enough. And, some of us sort of transition into other roles, and others of us take a break. Like I took like what I call my fake retirement for some time. And then I started Katalyst, and then, others of us say, I want to bet on myself. And so, that's your story. That's my story. And I think that's why we connected and just have continued to support each other, over the years. So that's our background. And I think the place I'd like to take this next is kind of in relation to that, about the kind of the pivot, right? And about the not knowing, because you and I both kind of left without kind of knowing exactly what was going to be next, but we just sort of made the leap. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about times in your life, potentially with work, personal, where you took the leap without knowing, and kind of what that experience meant for you.
Yeah, no, and I have to say that, you took the leap before I did, but hearing your story, I remember listening to you at the time, so that when I did take the leap, I was reflecting on that. I was like, Camila did it. I can do it. I don't know what this is going to look like.
Camila's doing it. I know she did it. She did it. Figuring out.
So you never know how you know, what risks you're taking inspires someone else to take a risk. Mm-hmm. And so sharing that with others, you know, and it may not be the same way, but something about the journey is something that gives you confidence to say, you know, I need something different. You know, I've taken a lot of risks in my life, you know, and as you get older, I think you become a little less risky, you know, and you get to that kind of comfortable space. At least I know for me, I know once I had kids, a child and a family, I was less likely to take risks because I was like, you know, we've got this going on and he's already in the school and things of that sort. And then so now it seems like later on in life, now that my son is older, you know, we're more stable as a family financially. I'm like, okay, let's try this and let's try that. And, you know, so one of the reasons why I was able to take that risk, and I talk about this quite often, is that there was someone who told me years ago, you know, never feel like you have to stay in a place where you're unhappy. And I said, that's so hard to do. You know, I can't financially, I just can't move. And she's like, always have your, I'm gonna say it, fuck you money. Mm-hmm. She said, have your fuck you money ready. That way you can be out, you know? And so I was always thinking about like, how do I save up that little fund so that in case I needed to say no to something that didn't meet my values or didn't represent the way I wanted to be treated, I can be like, peace mm-hmm. out, you know? Mm-hmm. And so that's what I did. And my last formal employer, I was just not feeling it. I was like, okay, this may be the environment that works for you. This environment does not work for me, you know? Mm-hmm. And I'm less tolerant as I get older for the BS. Mm-hmm. For the games and the tricks and all that kind of stuff. And I'm grown up. I don't need, yep. you know, there's just so much in that. So, you know, I have been through one last meeting where I was like, I can't even believe I'm on this call. And the person on the other end that was not part of the organization, I could feel she was another person of color. And I could feel her looking into my eyes through the Zoom, like, blink twice if you are okay.
Like, get out.
I was like, I could see her just like, what the heck? Why are you here? And I remember the next day I was like, I can't do this anymore. And they were like, what are you talking about? I was like, I can't be here. They were like, what are you going to do? I was like, reclaim my time. In the words of Auntie Maxine, like, I am going to reclaim my time. And I didn't know, but before that, I remember going home to tell my husband, because I was like, this is what happened. And then this happened. And he was like, quit. Ain't nobody going to be like that. And so that extra support, you know, and him saying like, oh no, like, why would you even let that happen, you know, or be in those conversations and things, that gave me extra strength to be no. So between my husband having my FU money ready and just being over it, I was like, okay, cool, I'm leaving. Didn't know what I was going to do. Didn't know. And I can't remember at what time period we talked, because there was a period in time when I was just going to be like, I'm just going to be off for a year. I'm going to read and I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to wake up. And
your fake retirement, right?
yes, exactly. And a friend of mine called me and she said, hey, I'm going to go to Little St. Simon's Island. We're both on the border, Georgia, Audubon. And they take donors each year to this little island called Little St. Simon's Island. And her husband couldn't go. She was like, do you want to go with me? And I was like, man, I just quit my job. I can't spend this extra money. I was like, I got points. I got this and that. So I went ahead and cobbled up my little points and went down there. And that was the best thing that I did, because I was in nature. I had that time to think. I wasn't worried about anything at that time. I was just being present in the moment, in the space. And there was someone there that I had never met before. And we were sitting out on the porch and he was like, so what do you do? And I was like, I don't know. You know, and it's so weird because you never realize how many times people ask you, like, what do you do? You know, where do you work? And I didn't have an answer. That was like the first time, and it made me feel like really weird and uncomfortable. So I told him about what had happened, and he just looked at me. He said, "You're gonna be okay. You're just gonna be okay." And he was like, you know, and I said, okay. And I came back and I was like, you know what? I know how to get a job. That I know how to do. I can get a job every way possible. But I have not ever taken a chance. I dabbled in it before on consulting, but I didn't really, really, really do it the way I should have done it, you know, and taking it to like full time, day in and day out, like build a company, right? So I said, you know what? I'm going to give myself a year. I'm going to build it out. If it doesn't work, I know how to get a job. You know, we'll see how it goes. So I started talking to people like you and to others. And that's when you were like, I have this idea. I was like, oh, yes, girl, because I don't know what I'm doing. And it would be nice to hear from other women about where they are in their journey and get some ideas. And I didn't know I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm you know, every day is something new. Every day. Yeah.
It's so funny. I was gonna say, like, I joke. I'm like 86.7% of the time, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing out in these streets, but I'm doing it, right? Like, you're doing one thing every day, one step at a time. You're learning and pivoting from sort of each mistake and lesson and figuring it out. And I think, like, you know, you mentioned that confidence, like, I know I can get a job. Like, there's something that happens, I think, in you, in this experience, and a lot of people, where you're like, you start to think about your history. And you're like, I've done been fine.
Yeah.
You know, I've figured it out. I've made it work. There have been hard times where I've had to sort of learn and struggle and grow, but I've never been on the streets or, you know, down and out without any support. And so I think that's a really important and powerful sort of mindset piece of this whole entrepreneur journey. I think when you, especially when you sort of rip the rug out from under you, like, if you're very strategic and thoughtful and kind of have your plan, then that's a different story. But if you know you have your FU money, if you know you have the support of the people who are closest to you, and you know your history and what you're capable of and what you've done, like,
that part.
There's nothing you can't figure out, right? And I think when you wake up every day and sort of, not every day, because some days even I'm just like, I have no idea, I just want to sleep for 5 hours, and like, there are days where it is that then you can kind of pull yourself on and be like, wait a minute, I've been here before, I've figured this out, I got people who have my back, and I know how to find the people that I need, even if I don't have it. Like, you know, so it's something about, I think, that power that we don't always recognize that we have, right? Because of, you know, we've had, you know, I'm in my 40s, like, we've had 40, 50, 60 years of experimenting and trying and figuring it out. And we made it work, right? And if you have to go back and get a job, you go back and get a job. And so I think it was really important that you said, I'm gonna try it for a year. Because I think that's the other thing that I talk to a lot with women. It's like, don't like make it feel so scary, like this is the rest of your life. Like, it doesn't have to be that. It can be like, I'm gonna take a bet on myself for this fixed period of time, go all in, see what I learned, see what it is, and then reevaluate, right? So all right, so this is gonna go by so fast. We have 15 minutes, which is insane. So let me talk about so one more thing, and then I want to get to your book. So you started out, and both of us started out saying, I'm going to be a consultant, right? I'm going to pivot from this and I'm going to go into consulting. And for both of us, it kind of shifted a little bit. So I'm like talking again about the unknown. So I want to hear about how you went from, I'm going to be a consultant to I'm going to coach. I'm going to build this business. I'm going to make $1 million in revenue in my first year of business doing something I've never done before. Like, talk about that space that you found yourself in, and kind of that lessons that you learned in this is the best laid plans turning into something completely different than you expected.
Well, actually, I started out wanting to just focus on coaching.
Oh, okay.
Actually, so I had a coach and still have her to this day. And she kind of convinced me that everything that I was saying I wanted to do led up to coaching. So I started to take some coaching certifications. And even then, after I got certified, I was like, do I sure, you know. And then I had gotten someone that reached out to me that wanted to know more about what I was doing. And that turned into a consulting contract. I also at the same time got a coaching contract. So I had this little comparison between the two going on there. And I remember with the consulting piece, I felt like I was part of a team again. And I was like, wait, this feels like I'm at work with no benefits, you know, no time off. I was like, I don't know about this, you know, was really loving the coaching. And that was nice to see people change and flourish and grow. And then I got a second coach. So here's the thing, like if you are looking for a coach, always ask your coach, do they have a coach? Because if they're not going to be coaching, if they're going to be coaching you, you want them to know that they believe in the power of coaching too for them. No one is perfect. People always have the ability to learn and grow. So I got a second coach that was more focused on business growth. Because again, I didn't know what I was doing in business. And he said something to me one day. He was listening to me. He said, LaTresse, do you want to be the business or do you want to lead the business? And I was like, oh, I said, okay. And then he said, you know, I look at your background and your experience. He said, you've led teams and organizations for the last 25 years. He said, you're a leader. He said, you need to focus on what you do best. And he said, and if consulting and writing reports and doing the work is not where you thrive and what brings you joy, he said, you lead the business and then you partner with others. And that was like shocking to me too, that piece, because I thought, well, everybody can do this on their own. Like, why would anybody want to come and do this with Bonsai, right? And so there's so many people I met along the way that have joined Bonsai as consultants that were like, yeah, I don't want to do what you're doing. I don't want to find the business. I don't want to do client, you know, any type of client negotiation, interaction. I just want to do the work. And I was like, wow. So I think some parts of you have to also think about that. Do you want to be a consultant? Do you want to be a business leader? Because they are two different things.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so I would say sort of part of my journey, I went out wanting to be a consultant. I wanted to do the work, but the work that I wanted to do looked different than I think I had envisioned consulting. I thought I was going to get a bunch of little contracts and kind of do that. And this is also kind of speaks to both of our journeys where like you can have this idea of what's right and what you want. And then sometimes stuff just comes to you. And I think you just sort of have to be in the position to listen and understand and have some like level of self-awareness, a coach perhaps to help bring that out in you, to be like, okay. And like you were like, huh, like, you know, how many times I've been like, like in my entrepreneur journey, I'm just like, oh wow, like I didn't even think about that, or I thought of it differently, or I just got to sit and be like, okay, this feels good right now, and I wasn't expecting that. Like I think that's probably if there was like an emoji for entrepreneur, it'd kind of be like,
it's like, huh.
That'd be our emoji. I forgot where I was going with this. Just to say that, you know, for me, consulting was supposed to be the be all end all. And I actually think I want to talk a little bit with our community about this when we come together again. But what a realization that I had earlier this week or late last week was that it kind of was just my gateway drug to liberation. In the sense that it got me out of my comfort zone into a space of what can I do and create for myself. And it's a piece of the puzzle. But it's not the whole puzzle anymore. And I don't want it to be the whole puzzle anymore. And then I started the community and then I started the retreats. And, you know, I think, you know, both of us sort of have that similar journey because you weren't expecting to do executive recruiting, right?
Oh, no. In fact, I used to tell people no, like, you know, when you're first starting out, I think, you know, you're just trying to get clear on how to explain who you are and what you do. So there was a lot of misunderstanding of what I provided. Some people thought I was like a DEI consultant. Others were just, you know, it was just all over the place with what people were coming to me with strategic planning and things. And so I would get a lot of questions about recruiting. And I would always say, no, I'm not a recruiter, and turn people away. I was coaching someone that leads a small organization, and we were talking about their team, and at some point she said, you know what, you've built teams, will you please recruit this position for me? And I said, no, not a recruiter. And she's like, no, I know, but I know that you can pick out, you understand my company, you understand what I need. I know you can find this person. So I thought about it and I was like, okay, as long as you realize this, that I'm not a recruiter. She said, no problem. And then that was when I started thinking about, okay, what other resources are out there? It doesn't have to just be me doing it. So I called up a friend who has done recruiting before. I was like, hey, I have this project. I don't know what this looks like even to split this out or anything or work together, but are you interested in it? So she was my first 1099 contractor. The client loved what we did with the first position so much that she added like 6 more. I mean, we did it was a lot. Referred us to another organization. We started recruiting for them for positions.
Just the two of you.
Yes, we laughed. We were laughing because we talked every day, several times a day for a whole year. She was like, and then we went to I've gotten bigger, I got more recruiters, so we don't talk as much. And she said, girl, she's like, I just have to check on you. She said, do you remember we were crying in corners? Literally, it would be first thing in the morning, 6 a.m. Hey girl, okay, I got this and got that, till 10 o'clock at night. She knew what she was doing. I didn't know what I was doing, but we somehow made it work. But it was just the two of us. And then, and when you're in your first year of business too, you don't know where it's going to go. I didn't know, it's like, at what point do I hire another 1099? At what point do I actually hire an employee? I don't know. I don't have a track record. So it was hard to know if this was going to keep on going, or is this just a fluke that, hey, we just got lucky. But it just kept on going and kept on going. So I called a friend that had recruited me to the American Red Cross. So this story is about keeping your relationships whole.
Oh, yes. Amen.
As you go on, if you're not, consulting now, if you don't have a business now, start now, but building those relationships, keeping them close, thinking about where you can, engage in the future. This woman had recruited me at American Red Cross 10 years ago. And I called her up and I was like, hey, she had retired. I said, do you want to make some extra money on the side? Because we've got this project. It's been over a year. She's still with Bonsai. So I just tapped into my network in my coach, going back to the coach. I said, at some point I'm going to have to say no. And he said, you are not going to say no. I was like, what do you mean I'm not going to say no? He said, you're going to figure it out. And he said, you're going to bring in the resources that you need to continue to do the work. You're not going to say no unless it's something that completely does not fit what you do. If it's not coaching, recruiting, or nonprofit consulting, you say no. But other than that, you're going to say yes and you're going to figure it out. I was like, okay. So here's the reason why I made it to $1 million in revenue in the year, because I was about to tap out at a point. But I just, by then I realized that I could have a team. It didn't have to be me. So we would have team meetings like normal. I would have my one-on-ones with everybody, what's going on with your projects. And it just felt so natural at that point,
This is going to go over. I try and keep it to 30 minutes and we got 5 minutes. There's no way. All right, I'm gonna see what I can do. So okay. Myra has a question in here sort of related to this. She said several friends have said to her, as soon as you get the first contract, others will come. Have we experienced this?
Yes, over and over again. And every time, everybody that works with me just laughs, because I'll call them and I'm like, hey, I'm just letting you know, enjoy your summer, because things are getting slow. I'm sure people are taking off. And I hang up and the next thing I have 5 new contracts. And it's like, okay, I lied. We're going to be really busy this summer. The same thing just happened yesterday. Earlier this week, I was saying, I'm looking forward to, December. It'll be kind of slow. And I told one of my clients, we're wrapping things up. And he was like, no, you're not. We got a whole 2024 worth of work. Y'all not going anywhere. And so it does just keep coming. And people, the client, first of all, the client's not always right. So you don't have to kiss ass or anything. but you build a strong, trusting relationship, and people like the way you work. They tell other people, they come back and they think about other ways to work with you. So much of my work, or I tell new clients, like, well, this is an example of a project that I worked on with this organization. A lot of people get like excited about who else you're working with, and they want to be, part of it. Well, yeah. So it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop.
And I'll say, just for like a dose of keeping it realness, I don't think that's everybody's story. I think you kind of landed in a really great place at a great point in time. There's a lot of people who are still leaving their roles, and there's it's just that the climate is right. I think with your sort of area of business expertise and consulting, that makes perfect sense for you. I think, others who are just starting out, sometimes it doesn't work that way as right and easily. I think this is what I always say all the time. Like, don't put any effort into RFPs in your first few years. Like, you're not going to get them. You're not going to get them, right? Like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. And maybe if you do, you are an anomaly, and congratulations. But you need to be focusing, like you said, on those relationships, because yes, your first several clients are going to come from people you know and people they know, period, point blank, period, right? And so, and I will say, part of the whole sales like process and life cycle is to set you up on your way out for future work as well. And Myra, that's something in the community. We have a recording or some notes where we brought in a sales expert to talk about like how to, like, her method and framework for that pipeline of, like, you don't just close out a project and be like, I'm done. Part of the closing process is to set you up for the potential next opportunity, whether with you or just so that they know you're a person that can be in their network for any other additional work. So it's part of that relationship building piece. I'm like so stressed about the time right now. Okay, so I'm going to ask Danny's question. Actually, I'm going to talk about your book, and then Danny, I'm going to ask your question. So you wrote a book. So, what made you feel like, last year was the right time? Like, what was the reason that you felt like this is a story that needed to be told? What was your, the motive really behind, not even like the story, but just like the actual physical element of having this piece of, knowledge out into the world from your brain to other people. So talk about that. It's called When Black Women Rise. I'm going to drop the link in the chat here, but talk about sort of just your thinking around that and how that even came about.
So again, it was the business coach, having conversations with them. And I was telling him I was really having some struggles when people would reach out to me, would want to work with me from a coaching perspective, but they couldn't afford my fees, right? And yes, I do some, pro bono stuff. I do some discounts on things, but at the end of the day, you're running a business. If you were to, do that all the time, you would be out of business, right? And so I said, this is just really a struggle for me to meet the need and say no to people. And he said, because then you're kind of creating the same cycle of oppression and exclusion, and just only providing people with the resources, with the value that you could provide to them. And he said, so that's why you need to create different levels of entry points. And this is no matter what business you have, right? And so how can people get the same knowledge from you, whether it be a YouTube video, whether it be some handouts on your website, whether it be a book, whether it be a podcast? Like, how can people experience you if they can't afford your services? What are other ways people can experience you at a more affordable rate? So I didn't want to do a podcast. I didn't want to do a YouTube. I honestly really don't like to write a lot, but I love to read, and I love the idea of a book. So he was like, okay, so you gonna write a book? And I was like, I think so. I think that's what it's gonna be. Thankfully, I didn't do it alone. So this is my third coach. I had a writing coach, Isabella Masucci. And so someone from the Katalyst group, Tanya, introduced me to Isabella, and she helped me create the outline, the purpose for the book, like what did I want to achieve with the book, the outline, the story. She helped me pull the stories out, to create the book. So, the last point I guess I would end on is you don't have to do any of this by yourself, like any of this by yourself. And I saw the question inside about, manage the more administrative parts of your business. Again, there are people out there that do that way better than me, that I realized the first time I played around with QuickBooks that was just not a good use of my time. And, it just was a better use of my time to hire someone else. My first virtual assistant was from the Philippines. Her name is Z. She is accepting, clients. But I remember when I thought, oh my gosh, I have a virtual assistant. It's going to cost so much. And she charged me $125 a week, basically. So $500 a month. I was like, at first I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much. And then I talked to other people. I'm like, wow, I'm getting a deal, because she was fantastic. So you never know what kind of resources are out there to do those administrative parts, or to do the parts of your business that are hard or difficult, or that you may not understand. Talk to your network, see who they're using. People will refer people all the time. Like, who's doing your taxes? How are you doing your invoicing? I don't know how many times I see Stephanie Matthews is in here. Stephanie and I talk. I was like, girl, here's my contracts. Take a look. They might not work in your state, but at least you know what elements that you might need to include, because so there are people everywhere that are willing to share and provide support.
Absolutely. And the addition that I would add to that is that, reframing your thinking of, oh, this is so expensive, to this person is adding value so that I can go make more money, right?
Yes.
So they should not be somebody that you're sort of draining and wasting time and energy and money on, but they should really be helping you be able to sit in your space where you operate best. Some call it zone of genius, in order to continue to bring in the revenue that you need in other ways. So they're freeing your time to be able to do other things that are going to be valuable on that return. Okay, so I think. Okay, so how much does a book person cost? The person who supported you there. What's the investment on that?
So I'm gonna let her tell you, because see, I don't like to quote people.
Okay, I got it. That's fine.
Change for people.
That's fine.
And it depends on what you want and what you need her to do.
Okay,
so I've been in that, because that's a good thing to share too. I always tell my clients, like, this is unique to you. Please, if you refer me, thank you, but don't share my rate, because it might be different for someone else. And I don't want them,
Okay, and we can use Google. We can use Google to see a range of generally how much a writing coach or sort of a business support person in that area might be.
And I can put her name in the chat, and you can reach out to her and check. It is an investment, though.
Okay.
It is an investment, but
with the idea that she's helping you create a product that's going to give you a return on that investment.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes, she was really fantastic. And yes, it is a business tool. I don't expect to, be a bestseller or to make, millions of dollars on it, but it's already been very helpful in just creating more awareness.
Creating, positioning as a thought leader,
Exactly.
that's great. Well, I am very inspired by you from the day I met you. I want to thank you just so much for, what you brought to our community when you were part of it. Even when you left, sort of continuing to support, continuing to send me opportunities, and just the general relationship that you and I have. We met up for the first time, which is crazy, earlier this year. And, I appreciate kind of what you bring to the world, and just how you're just so willing to support other women, other Black women, kind of in our journeys towards liberation, which is really what Katalyst is all about. So thank you to the universe for bringing us into each other's lives and others' orbits. And thank you for all the resources that you're putting in here with your writing coach and with your VA. So thank you. LaTresse, is there anything else you want to share about your journey, your book, how anything you need from us or from anyone who might see this? I'll give you the last word.
No, I just, first of all, thank you for having me here. And I'm thankful for our friendship too. And I would just say, Mastermind was the was the chance for me to be in a space to learn, to grow, and to be able to kind of flourish. So if you are in that group, if you're not in that group, please join. If you are in that group, please get everything you can out of it and make sure you connect with the other members. I think that really makes a difference.
To this day, people are, you're still connecting with folks. So I love to see, I love to hear it. Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that. Thank you for all who joined. I'll share this on LinkedIn. I'll share this on our YouTube channel. LaTresse, I'll share with you to put wherever you want. So thank you. And I hope to talk again soon and see you again soon.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.